The picture here of desolation is a pretty vivid picture. This area near Bethsaida, it's very dry and hot. Vast expanse, little vegetation. It's a desert. So, you guys been out to the desert lately, or been to one like Utah, Arizona, New Mexico? Quite high. It's just deadness, right? Like very little green, very little life. There's nothing happening there. Just desolate places. Maybe that's how you feel this morning. Maybe you've come and just spiritually you're in a desolate place now. You feel like there's very little spiritual life going on in you. You feel spiritually dry, empty, maybe spiritually dead. Maybe just like the disciples, maybe you're just weary, just tired of life. Life feels heavy. Desolate places are the reality that we live in. It's a picture of our true spiritual need that we have as human beings, that we're lost in a desert and we don't have any water, and we need a shepherd. We need someone to come guide us and to take us to what Psalm 23 calls still waters. It's a picture of us when we're at our lowest and we feel deeply our spiritual need. I was talking to one of our church members just before I left for Nashville last week, and he was telling me about some of the things that God had been teaching him this year. Last Christmas Eve, he ended up in the hospital. He had a high fever, had not been feeling well. They ran a bunch of tests and found that he had this abscess on his liver that needed to be drained, and when they drained it, his lung collapsed and ended up being in the hospital for over a month. He went into shock, had trouble breathing, just really, really rough time. And during that time, he said he never felt more lonely, had never felt more lonely in his entire life. Just laying there in the hospital, looking up at the fluorescent light, no ability to go anywhere, to get out of bed, to do anything, hours and hours, all alone, all by himself, except for the few times somebody would come visit him for just a little while. He said in that place, it felt like he was just in a darkness and wondered where God was as he was just forced to sit alone with his soul. A desolate place, for sure. In 1925, this lady named Mrs. Charles E. Cowman wrote this wonderful little daily devotional book called Streams in a Desert. I discovered it years ago, and it's been a personal blessing in my life on many occasions. I don't like read it every day, but usually on one of those days, it's a desolate day where I'm feeling pretty low and spiritually dry and weary and alone. One of her entries, the one from July 5th, says this: "Often the riches which the soul needs are obtained in the wilderness, the lonely place out of which you can seldom find your way. God knows our need of the wilderness experience, so he leads us into hard places that we might find his eternal springs." Everybody sooner or later finds themselves in a desolate place and realizes a desperate need for God. Sooner or later, you're going to be in a desolate place and realize that you need God and cannot live life without him. It's for all people like that. The many, many people of the world that Jesus, the Good Shepherd, came for, to meet us in our desperation and our desolation. He comes to us in the desolate place as the Good Shepherd to minister to us.